Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. And today I have a knife, the Spyderco Ikuchi, that there is no way in the world I should like. And anyone who's seen, any of my videos or been around the channel long would look at this knife and go, this is a hard pass for Kevin. And I would look at it too most of the time and say that. Now, there are a couple of things. First of all, I've got to say, Paul Alexander, the designer, deserves some credit because this design, okay, both aesthetically and functionally, is pretty intriguing. And so there's that drew me to it. Just the look of this, the wheel flipper, just it's doing something different and to me very interesting. And so that was pretty compelling. Now the other party, I guess, that deserves some credit here has got to be the knife community. There's a few guys on Canadian Knife and Gear who have one. I've seen a few Instagram videos of them, and even some other reviewers talk about how compelling this knife is and how much they enjoy it. And I'm listening to this going, really, could this be true? Like, and so just the combination of it being interesting and different, a really attractive design, and people commenting on how fidget friendly it was, eventually, kind of built up enough to convince me to pick one of these up and try it. Huge thanks to Southern Edge Knife Works. That's where this one came from. And I've got to say, this is a knife that even though on paper it is not by any stretch a Kevin Cleary knife, has really kind of won me over. So let's quickly get the size and weight out of the way here. This is a smaller knife than I like. So 7 and 11/16 overall. Okay, so, kind of moving toward 7 3/4 inches type of thing. 3 and 5/16 on the blade. What do we got here? 4 and 3/8 handle, 4 inches of grip area. Now that I want to stop on for a second because one of the things that I think this knife does really well is every bit of the handle is usable as grip. So I've got to say that's pretty darn impressive. The other thing I like is the closed position on this, how the whole blade just completely vanishes there, is pretty interesting. So lots of various factors sort of came together to get me to pick this up. And of course, by the way, a knife this small, you wouldn't expect it to be too heavy, and it's not. 2.4 ounces, so very, very lightweight knife. Okay, so size and weight is quite small, quite slim. This is absolutely a knife that you don't know you have with you. And I'll often carry this in addition to whatever else I have with me because it's just so unnoticeable that, I slip this in my back pocket and, it gives me that second knife. It gives me certainly a smaller knife to have. Now, I will say this. I know we're not onto action yet, but this is a knife. If you're around non-knife people, the deployment of this is crazy fast, and you may get some people that are like, whoa, is that an auto or something? Because it's insanely speedy. So be aware of that. If you're getting this out and deploying it around non-knife people, you might spook somebody. We'll talk about that more when we get to the action. Before we do though, let's go ahead and talk about this blade. Okay, so fairly slim piece of S30V steel here. Sorry about the hands, they're a little chalky. I was working out earlier. S30V, nice flat grind, very nice. I always find the grind lines are a little more noticeable on the Taichung Spydercos, and there's no exception here. Fairly thin edge geometry, and of course, how could it not? So pretty interesting, very slicey, very useful blade. Being upswept like this allows for a very small blade, but still a decent amount of belly. And I want to do one quick thing here to give you an idea. So if you look at how much blade the Manix has here compared to how much blade, cutting edge, I should say, the Ikuchi has, you can see the Ikuchi actually has more cutting edge and even more belly than the Manix, and yet you can imagine the difference in carrying these two knives. It's totally different. So I actually like this blade quite a bit. The only drawback, the only sort of downside I would say, and really it's not fair to call this a downside, but this is not the blade you're going to want if you've got some heavy duty, hard use type of stuff. Hold on, I'm kind of fingerprinting it all up, clean it up a little bit. This is not the blade you're going to want for like some heavy duty, hard use type of cutting. For light EDC type of cutting tasks, maybe cutting up a little bit of fruit or opening a package or something, very, very nice. nice. Okay, so dainty, slim, very, very pointy. So don't be dropping this when you're going to break that tip off for sure. But in terms of, utility for size, it's quite good. And I've actually used this blade for lots of different stuff, and it's performed quite nicely for me. Okay, let's move on to probably the point that everyone's here to see, and that is the wheel flipper. It actually says in the description that it deploys like a Bic lighter, and it really does. If you sort of do this lighter thing with your thumb, the knife actually does deploy. And it was a little surprising when I read that. I was like, really? Can that be right? Um, and now that I've gotten used to it, I did struggle with it a bit. I would say it's broken in a bit, so the detent has probably softened up a little. But when I first got it, you saw me in that video kind of sitting here going, oh man, it's hard to deploy. Now, after having a bit of time with this, I can deploy it quickly. I can unlock it quickly. It's really, really enjoyable. Okay, better than I could have possibly imagined it being. And it really is an addictive knife to sit there and just flip like crazy. It's really enjoyable. The other thing I have to say, I did get some pleasure out of handing this knife over to a couple of friends and getting them to figure out how to get the blade out, because it's really, you kind of look at it and go, what do I even do with this? And once they see that wheel, and a couple of times, I basically had to point out the wheel and then sort of explain how it deploys. So let me emphasize that for a second. If you pick up one of these and you go, Kevin, you're an idiot. I bought this stupid knife and now I've got this annoying thing. Listen, there's definitely a learning curve. It took me about a week to where I was pretty comfortable opening and closing this knife. There's definitely a learning curve to it. So if you get this and you're like me in my first impressions video saying, geez, it doesn't seem comfortable, it's kind of annoying, I can't get a hold of the lock. There's definitely some time that it takes to get comfortable with the deployment and even the disengaging of the compression lock here. Okay, so it's definitely got a little bit of learning curve to it. Once you sort of master it and once you sort of get comfortable with it, it's very fast and very fun. And so I just got to say, I just kind of want to give you that advanced warning. Now, let's move on to the handle. And I've been giving this some thought and thinking about, how am I going to handle this when we get to the full review? Because I kind of complained about Spyderco's laminate carbon fiber here. And I don't know. I feel like this would be a great knife just in, I don't know, blue G10 or black G10 or, various other options. I don't feel like it needs to be classed up. But I guess I sort of get them trying to do something to dress it up a little bit, make it more of a gentleman's folder without going full carbon fiber and without, having to charge us the kind of cost that comes with full carbon fiber. I get that, although my argument with myself is this: is carbon fiber all that expensive? Like, is it really gonna ruin the price point of the knife if you put carbon fiber on here? And even the manufacturing, you've got an extra step to make this laminate. So I don't know. I don't love, I still kind of stand by what I was saying about not loving the carbon fiber laminate, but I sort of get it. And in the configuration that this is in, I do find it to be an attractive knife. So there you go. I don't know. I'm a little bit on the fence about the carbon fiber laminate. It's okay, but it's not my favorite thing in the world. Let's just leave it at that. In terms of feel in hand and grip, it's quite good. It is fairly grippy. It's small, okay? So let's just say that this is not the knife that I want out in the bush to do some kind of hard work. I'm not going to be skinning anything with this. There's a handle there and it's comfortable enough, but it's quite small, which means, you feel like your fingers can wrap around it twice before you've really got a hold of it. And in a hammer grip, it's just not good because there's so much, like the knife is just too small for me to get a hold of well. In a saber grip, it's definitely much nicer. And this is, of course, how I use most knives anyway. but the handle is definitely small, and it makes it maybe not as hard use. So that's where, when I said it's got lots of cutting edge, it does. Now the Manix in hand just feels amazing. Like I'm ready to go to town and really get some work done now once I get a hold of the Manix. Okay, so that's going to be a significant factor for you. And as I said, this was not meant to be a hard use tactical type of tool. It's just meant for a nice lightweight EDC slash gentleman's folder. And in that category, it works really, really well. All right. I should restate at this point, since we're talking about the handle and we normally, cover a little bit about the design there, that I do find this to be a very attractive knife. So, I've got to give Spyderco some credit for making it. It's definitely different. I love the fact that the blade totally disappears. I love the action. Let's take a look in here. You can see they have lightened it up a little bit. Okay, and you've got that post in there to accommodate the wire clip. Wire clip is movable. I like that as well. Overall, what do I think of the handle? I like the construction. The fit and finish is good. The material is okay. It's not my favorite. Laminate carbon fiber is not my favorite thing, but it's fine. The construction is very cool. The design is very, very cool. And that's, I've got to say, one of the ways that this knife really, really stands out to me. It's one of the coolest, most interesting, unique, and yet still very functional designs that Spyderco has out there. Sometimes they do these way out there designs that just look stupid, and they normally feel pretty good in hand still, but this one I think strikes a better balance than some of the other sort of weird out there designs that Spyderco does. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab some comparisons now that I've rambled about that long enough. Here it is compared to a Rat Model 1. Again, everyone's familiar with that. And by the way, I'm glad they didn't use this cheap looking carbon fiber. That's certainly not what I'm advocating for. We've had the Manix in here a couple times already, so let's bring that back. Again, a knife most of you are familiar with. I've got a couple of other smaller-ish Spydercos. Okay, so another Spyderco that everyone's familiar with. More to give you an idea of size. What else have we got here? American Lawman. I tried to pull some of my smaller knives to give you some ideas in terms of comparison. Let's see. Oh, the Bird Raven 2. Now, not that these are exactly similar knives, but just to more give you a size and to give you, an idea of the blade length here. And of course, let's throw the Formax Scout in there. That's always helpful. A fraction of the size there. So what are my overall thoughts on this knife? Guys, I have to tell you, I really like this knife. I did not expect to. I was definitely curious, and I thought it would be fun to check it out and kind of learn how this different mechanism works and get familiar with it. But this is absolutely a knife that grows on you, and you just kind of get to enjoy it more and more as you have it. Of course, the other thing, and I feel like a broken record saying this, is this is something you can carry. You could go running with this. You could do anything. So, good action, good blade, useful knife. I don't know, not much more to say. Very attractive as well. So, considering all of those points, you kind of got to say, hey, it's a pretty decent knife. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to use those discount codes down below and follow those links. It does help the channel. We'll talk to you soon.